This is 5 Minute Feng Shui, podcast episode 109, Dining Room Feng Shui. Welcome to the 5 Minute Feng Shui podcast, where each week I talk about how to move energy and make money. You'll learn how to create a prosperous home and an abundant life using classical Chinese Feng Shui. I'm your host, Katie Weber, publisher of the Red Lotus Letter, Feng Shui Easing for Wealth. Each week, I'll cover Feng Shui topics that can help you improve your life, share inspiring stories, and always end with 3 easy-to-implement Feng Shui tips that you can put to work right away, and usually in about 5 minutes. Now let's get started on the 5 minutes that could change your life. Is it me, or is this been the longest fast year we've had? I tell you, it seems like, we just started hearing about COVID, and now we're in another big surge again. It made me think about how quickly, yet how slowly this year has gone. The World Wildlife Fund is a charity that I support. I believe they're a wonderful organization. They speak on behalf of animals who can't speak on behalf of themselves. And I love to know that my monthly contribution to them is helping to preserve and save our wildlife. And I was reminded of that because they had sent me a new calendar, like they do every year, for contributing to the organization. And it just, put 2021 right there in front of my face. It's almost here. We're just looking at 6 weeks away, and we're hanging up the new calendars, and it is a new year. And this has been something that I know a lot of folks are ready to put behind them, and they're already decorating with Christmas decorations outside, inside. I even heard Christmas carols on the radio. A lot of folks are ready to leave 2020 in the dust, and who can blame them? Who can blame them? It's been a really, really rough year. One of the things, though, that is coming up, though, is COVID, and COVID in next year. And this is something that I saw last year. And in fact, I had actually said, take your breathing health very seriously. I'm concerned about flu. I'm concerned about, major epidemics of flu. And who knew it was going to be the cold virus gone wild. I think that's what the coronavirus is like a type of cold virus that just has gone berserk. And we've seen the devastation that's caused. We could see that last year. Actually, I saw that and talked about it in last year's Year of the Rat Feng Shui forecast. And I'm writing Year of the Ox for Feng Shui forecast right now, and my success pack. This is the annual product that I put together. It's got a workbook, there's a forecast, there's an audio file, and there's also a private Facebook group membership if you choose that level. And it's, to me, one of the things that I love about Feng Shui is its ability to give you that heads up about what you can expect, what might be happening. Now, some people just want to hear that, it's just, you've got this energy or that energy, and hang up this one chime here and put a frog over there. And that's fine. But to me, I like to look at energies in terms of what they mean. So what I mean by that, and speaking of meaning, what I mean by that is, okay, so last year the 7th star came into the center, and it was the reigning star. This star represented the lungs, and it's considered a negative star. Well, we've got a brand new star and energy coming in 2021. I'm happy to report, and it's a beautiful star, and it's a star that we welcome in because it's going to, I think, change the dynamics of leadership. I think we're going to see lots of innovation this year, and that's one of the things that I look at is, well, what does this new star mean for us? How is it going to play out? What are all the ways it can play out in politics, in investments? That's another thing that I talked about last year, was how investments, especially in gold, it went up, what was it, 25, 30 5%, something like that. It went from like 1,500 to over 2,000, which is something that I had predicted that would happen. And this is one of those things that I love about Feng Shui, is because we can look at the patterns and energies and be able to kind of see or have a heads up about what to expect. 2021 is coming. There is I think some fantastic news on the horizon. We're starting to see it. You're going to start seeing some shifts and changes. This is a really potent time right now as you're listening to this. We're a week away from the United States annual holiday, the Thanksgiving. And that's our American holiday, a very truly American holiday. Right now is Diwali, Indian. If you're an Indian listener, maybe you're having a beautiful holiday right now with your family and friends, celebrating Diwali, the festival of lights. It's a beautiful holiday. I love the idea of the triumph of good over evil. It is a theme that we certainly need to hear more about. Right? We need some great news to lift us up, and I think we're going to be seeing some. There is a light, and it is that 6 star, and it's coming in. I can't wait to tell you about all the things that it's going to be doing here in 2021 as we're inching ever closer to that month, or January 1st, when we change that calendar over to 2021. There are some really neat things coming. There's 4 sets of houses that have absolutely fabulous energy, and that's nice to tell you about. I know that you're excited as I am about putting 2020 in the history books. It'll be nice to put that and close that chapter. But if you want to know about what's coming up, I am working diligently on that forecast and getting that success pack ready to go. And if you want to be a part of the private Facebook group that I have as part of my Success Pack purchase, love to have you. We have an awesome group, and it's a very intimate group, so you don't get lost in the shuffle. There's lots of fun things that we do on there and talk about there. I'm on there twice a month doing live videos where we can talk about your questions, and I hope you'll consider joining it this year, because if we learned anything last year, it's that we need support, we need caring, we need love, and you get a lot of that in this group. There is a lot of support for one another, and that to me is one of the best parts about this group that I started. I guess that was 5 years ago. It's made a big difference for me and for a lot of folks that have joined it, in terms of feeling like there's a safe place that you can go to. You can talk about Feng Shui, and maybe sometimes some of us have talked about some of the difficulties we faced. People who've lost loved ones, like myself, my brother-in-law this year from COVID, and another member lost her husband, and we're all there to support and encourage, in addition to talk about Feng Shui and answer those questions. So think about that this year when the Success Pack comes out. I'd love to have you in the group. It'd be great to interact with you there. All right. Well, let's talk about what I was just mentioning just a minute ago about Thanksgiving. And let's talk about how we can get together here in the pandemic and have good Feng Shui. But particularly this episode is about dining room Feng Shui. So we're going to talk about the holidays coming up. Here we are at the first of the year. So we've got, Hanukkah coming up. We've got Diwali's that's going on. We've got Thanksgiving that's happening. And, there's always, and just some people like to celebrate because, hey, it's a new year. And I think that's an absolutely fantastic way to celebrate. I think this will be a New Year's party at my house. It may be just a couple of us, but we're going to have a good one, because I'm ready to see 2021 come in, and I know you are too. But we want to talk about dining room Feng Shui and how it is impacted by the way you have your dining room arranged, and ways that you can make your dining room more auspicious. One of the things I wanted to mention to you is that really the dining room is a representation of your assets, of your accumulated wealth. So if you can think about your home as being, a symbol, of income, Think of your dining room as that's your treasure chest, right? Because we often have beautiful china, crystal, silver, that kind of thing. I know we've gotten out of the habit of using it, but gosh, during the COVID, we need something beautiful more than ever. But your dining room is a representation of beauty and accumulation and wealth and assets, not just income. And this is why I like the dining room. And I love a formal dining room, absolutely. And it's something that I think is a place where you can always make something special. A meal in your formal dining room or just your regular dining room with a pretty tablecloth on it and some flowers and candles makes a meal so much more special. And we need special things that are beautiful and that lift us up and make us feel great. So let's talk about how to make your dining room experience and your dining room have good feng shui and create that atmosphere where everyone feels good and you enjoy yourselves more, and that you have a table that is there for you, whether you're in quarantine or you're having a beautiful celebration meal. Maybe it's a celebration meal for 2 or for 6. I'm not going to talk about whether you should get together in groups or not, because that's your call. I'm just going to pretend that there's no limitations, and I'm going to talk as in pre-COVID days, just when we can use our dining room table the way we want to in our dining room. So let's talk about some feng shui rules about the dining room that I think you're going to want to observe all the time, and whether we have a pandemic or not. And this is the energy of arguments, that sometimes around the table tensions can kind of flare, and this is especially true like at a square table, because a square table is a representation of wood, and family relationships are also symbolized by the element wood. And when we get a lot of wood in the room, this can sometimes lead to anger. That's because wood is also the element of anger. So you know how you get families that get together sometimes and it's like, it's nice, or maybe it gets a little tense, that kind of thing. Well, let's talk about things that you can do in your dining room to kind of make that tension go away. And one of the ways you can do that is to put a red or an orange tablecloth on the table, and this will help diffuse arguments and exhaust that wood energy. Plus, the red color will make everybody hungry and focus on the food instead of who got Aunt Martha's china or whatever the argument is about, or whatever little flare moments come up. You can also use a candle in their centerpiece to burn up excess wood. Now, if you are, you can always use the electric candles too if you're opposed to using a regular candle. But really, the idea is that we want to make people focus on the food, be hungry. And some people might say, well, red makes people angry. Actually, for families and for gatherings, red focuses that energy on the color of happiness. Red is the color of joy and happiness, and the symbol and the color that represents fire. And just think about sitting around around a fire. How many people argue around a fire? No, we're usually busy making s'mores, right? So having that fire element is really important. So that red color. If you don't want red color, you can have white color. That will help to dispel arguments there and dispel that wood energy. So if your dining room happens to be in the east corner of your home this year where the 5 yellow is, we don't want to have red. We don't want to have candles. Electric candle is okay. White color would be just fine to get through that. That's a nice way to manage those energies. And let's talk about how to keep everybody happy too. It's always a great idea to do something like Mad Libs. It gets everybody going and it puts the focus on doing something fun. That's always a great thing, obviously. So is having something like karaoke. So having a little fun going on when you're having a big meal, a big get together for a holiday is a great way to burn off energy and increase the volume on the happy energy. That's never, ever a bad thing, right? The other thing that you can do is to burn pine or cinnamon scented candles. These candles stimulate appetite They're a natural scent from trees, because cinnamon is actually a type of tree bark. And these cinnamon or pine scented candles will help kind of burn through any excess family kind of energy. But obviously, that's not something that you want to have on your table, because we don't want to interfere with any of the smells and the lovely fragrance of the food. We don't want to interfere with that at all. But you can have that somewhere in the house and just have your plain white unscented candles for the table. Let's talk about arranging seating. Now, if you are in the living room, you're going to want to try to position chairs and sofas to face one another, so it keeps everybody looking at one another and talking directly to each other, versus an L-shaped seating arrangement. Do what you can to create like a square type seating arrangement where everybody is looking at one another. This is a really helpful tip, so it keeps everybody happy in the living room while you're working in the kitchen trying to work some culinary magic. Let's talk about the importance, too, about that whole accumulated wealth idea. And that is, when you have a beautiful dining room, displaying your china and crystal is a wonderful way to show that wealth, to show that accumulation. It's very auspicious to display your family crystal, your china, your silver. And if you wanted to put mirrors anywhere in your home, the dining room is it. This is where we want to double the people, double the enjoyment, double the beauty and the luxury that you may have with your crystal elements and your china that you may have. And it's also a great way to enhance the items that you have. If you have a china cabinet, if you can put a mirror behind the china cabinet. So most of them have that, but if you don't for some reason, or you have a cabinet or a console or something like that, adding a mirror behind it where you have your some people have a china buffet, having a big mirror there and doing a service on your buffet will just double that and make it look more beautiful and activate it. And we also want to talk about lighting, because lighting is so important, right? It makes a mood feel so much better when you have the appropriate lighting. Obviously, if you're trying to do something, working on a task, you need bright lighting. But when you're dining at home or you have family, it's a holiday, beautiful bright lighting is also so wonderful to have. A beautiful chandelier just adds to that wealth energy of your dining room. And if yours isn't bright or attractive enough for you, replace it. Lighting is is one of those things you can spend money on, and every interior designer will tell you it's well worth spending. If you can have a beautiful light and bright dining room table, and you have beautiful crystals or a beautiful chandelier, that is so good for your feng shui of your dining room. Now, as we talked about hanging mirrors there, that's another way to enhance that any kind of chandelier that you might have. Because if you have a beautiful mirror, it will reflect that light as well as reflect the image of that beautiful chandelier. So great to have mirrors in there. Now let's talk about some don'ts in the dining room, because these are just as important as the do's. So let's talk about the don'ts. And one of the things we don't want to have in the dining room is a clock. A clock in a dining room actually brings some difficult energy because they symbolize death. We want to remember that the passage of time isn't something that you want to be thinking about while you're enjoying a meal in the company that are closest to you. So if that's where your big grandfather clock is, I'd suggest taking it out of there. We don't want to be time aware in our dining room. I remember my mom had broken her hip last year, and she went to a rehab facility / nursing home. And what I thought was so cruel was in their dining area, they had one of those big giant clocks, that's very stylish. You see them in a lot of home decorating TV shows, and I won't name the ones because there's one that's really popular. And while I love this particular show, they're forever putting up these giant oversized clocks. That means that you are always under the gaze of a clock. You're always under pressure. And that's not a good thing, right? And especially not when you're dining, and especially not if you're in a rehab or nursing home in this dining room with this giant clock. Every time I saw it, I told my mom, stay away from that room. Go sit over here in this other corner here where you don't look at that clock. And she was in and out of there in no time. I'm so proud of her. She just is like a rubber ball, my mom. She gets knocked down, but it's not for long. She broke her leg. She's back on it and walking around 6 weeks like it never happened. And she did the same thing with her hip. So anyway, there's my little shout out to my mom. And sometimes she listens, so maybe she'll hear this too. Now, let's talk about, so we talked about the clocks, that we don't want to have that. The other thing that we don't want to have is pictures of relatives. This is an area where you want to have, pictures of fruit or some still life. You have mirrors. Having your pictures in the dining room, especially of anyone who's like a relation who may have passed, this is not considered auspicious because it brings that sort of energy into the dining room of we just don't want to have that image, that symbol of death and limited time and that kind of thing in the dining room, just like the clock. So having those pictures of those who've passed is not auspicious. It would be better to put those in another area of your home that's not involved with dining. That I think that would be more important to put those in like a heaven location, like the northwest corner, because I think that's where we want to think they are, right? The other thing that we don't want to do is, and that could create a yin dining experience, is to have any kind of ashes, pet ashes, people's ashes. There are times, that those things are brought into the dining room, and that really, well, first of all, they shouldn't be in your home, much less the dining room. So hopefully you'll work to get those placed appropriately. So important that you do, because we just don't want to have that very yin energy in the house, or especially in your dining room. The other thing is, we don't want to have big pictures of animals in the dining room, because they represent the symbolically of something that could eat your food. And so it's much better to put those into another portion of your house and have, like I said, pictures of still life, or, mirrors hung up, anything, any type of image that is appealing to you would be better than to have birds or statues of animals, that kind of thing. But it's not the worst thing in the world if you have a beautiful picture of a deer in your dining room. I don't think that would be a problem. But, we don't want to have your dog Spot up on the wall. Pets should go somewhere, in the family area, maybe. Now, here's the other thing that is so important, especially now with COVID, and I'm hoping that this is something that will create a trend. I want to think that even though the pandemic has been extremely difficult and trying for all of us, I always believe that there's a silver lining. There's something that we can learn and benefit from no matter what happens, even the hard things and the difficult things. And that is, even if you have a big crowd at your house, now I know it's pandemic and you're not likely going to have that, don't use paper plates. Try to use a real plate, a real plate to eat on, because this is a time to celebrate abundance, material wealth, and paper plates are really a poor symbol of an auspicious holiday or an auspicious meal or a beautiful meal. So when you are at home and what you want to make a dinner for two special, pull out that good stuff, get it out. This is the lesson that I think that we've learned from COVID is in the pandemic, is that, certain things really matter to us, like being together and being with our family. And one of the things that I love to do is to make a special meal and make it more special by using the good stuff, your good china, your good crystal, the silver, pulling it out and having that gleaming, sparkling table. There's just nothing like it in the world. I think about this story, and as a good example of why we should use our dining rooms and why we should pull out our beautiful china, silver and crystal. And if you don't have them, just pull out the best that you have and dress it up maybe with a pretty napkin, not a paper napkin, but a pretty napkin, and set the table formally. Just set it up really nice. Put some flowers on the table. You don't have to have you just don't have to have Wedgwood china or or expensive crystal to make a beautiful table. But making a beautiful table is worth doing. I think about the show Downton Abbey, and every night they would dress for dinner. They would dress up for dinner, and then they would go to their dining room, even though it was, glorious home that they were living in a magnificent dining room. But they would eat off their fine china. That you would see them every evening dressed up, eating in the beautiful dining room that they had, and it was made special. Daily dining was made special, and I think when we make a special effort on our meals, then we should make them look special too. Well, there you have it. There's some ideas that you've got for your dining room and what it represents. And I'm going to leave you with 3 tips. Tip number 1, for the holidays, if there's family tensions or anything like that, or just it's a little bit crowded, add a little fire element to burn through excess wood. Fire element could be a candle on the table. It could be a red tablecloth or an orange tablecloth. Take your pick. Either one would be just fine. You could also use white. So if you're worried about the 5 yellow for the year, if that's where your dining room is located, you can use white. That'd be perfectly fine. And even a symbol of a candle, which is like those electric candles, would be just fine. Tip number 2, keep clocks, animals, and dead relations out of the dining room. The dining room is a place for the living to enjoy and to have a lovely meal together and be together. So keep those out. And tip number 3, use the good stuff, and as often as possible, use real china, use real plates. Forego paper plates for the holidays, and pull out all the good stuff and use it as often as you can. It's worth saying, I'm special, my day-to-day life is special, my meal is special, and my family is special. All right, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of 5 Minute Feng Shui. It was fun for me, and I want to wish everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday next week and a beautiful holiday season coming up. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of 5 Minute Feng Shui. If you did, please be sure to share this episode with your friends on social media, and let's change the world one home at a time. For more Feng Shui information and inspiration, sign up for my free weekly Feng Shui Easy. Just drop by redlotusletter.com to sign up, and I'll be in your inbox every Wednesday. And if you like this episode, I'd love it if you left a review on iTunes. If you do, send me the screenshot of your review to katie@redlotusletter.com with iTunes review in the subject line, and I'll send you a free gift as my thank you. I'll see you next week on the next episode of 5 Minute Feng Shui.